I knew something was off when the Christmas card arrived, and my stomach didn't drop, it imploded. There it was. Glossy, cheerful, and decorated with fake pine branches and snowflakes. My entire family posed in front of my parents' house, dressed in coordinated red and gold. My sister's kids were front and center. My mom and dad were smiling like they hadn't just screamed at me last week. Everyone was there, except me. Not a trace. Not even a "we miss you, love you" scribbled in ink. Just erased. Like I never existed. And the worst part? I paid for the damn photo shoot. I was the one who sent my mom the Pinterest board full of color palettes and photo ideas. I booked the photographer she wanted, even put down the deposit. I even bought the outfits for my nieces because my sister couldn't afford it after ballet lessons. I'd been begging them to include me in just one family photo for the last 3 years. Every time there was a reason why it didn't work out. I should have seen it coming. But let's rewind a little. I'm the eldest of 3 and the only one who moved out and stayed gone. My sister, Caroline, still lives 10 minutes from my parents. My brother, Eric, pops in when he needs something money. Help with taxes, a place to store his crap during breakups. Me? I'm the strong one. The independent one. The "we didn't worry about you" one. Translation, I'm the one they lean on without ever giving back. After my divorce, I moved into a modest 2-bedroom rental and took on extra freelance work just to stay afloat. Guess who still ended up paying for Caroline's baby shower? Or helping mom refinance her car loan? Or covering the property taxes when dad forgot to file? And they never said thank you. Not once. I kept justifying it to myself. They're stressed. They're busy. They love me. They just don't know how to show it. Then came Christmas last year. The first one I didn't go home. I'd told them I needed a quiet holiday. They called it selfish. Caroline said I was being dramatic. My mom cried on the phone and said she already bought my favorite pie. My dad just said, "Well, it's your decision, but you'll hurt people." Still, I stayed home. I roasted a tiny chicken, poured some wine, and watched White Christmas by myself. It was the first time in years I wasn't walking on eggshells or fake smiling at a dinner table. Then, in early January, the card showed up. That card broke something in me. I stared at it for hours, flipping it back and forth like maybe I'd missed something. A tiny photo on the back, a name scrawled somewhere. But nope, it was like I'd been surgically removed from my own bloodline. I texted my mom, "Nice card." Didn't realize I died this year. She left me on read for 3 days, then responded with, "You said you didn't want to be involved this year." Involved? INVOLVED? I felt like I was choking on the word. That was her excuse? That I'd chosen to be erased? Caroline chimed in next, "You're so sensitive. It's not always about you." And that's when I knew I wasn't part of this family. I was the emotional ATM they occasionally guilted into babysitting or bankrolling their whims. I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was a ghost they called when they needed something. It all came crashing in, the time they forgot to tell me about Nana's funeral until the day before. The group family vacation I wasn't invited to. The emergency fund I built for them that they drained in 2 months. The lie they told my ex-husband about my emotional issues during our custody battle. I'd swallowed every betrayal with a smile, like a well-trained dog begging for scraps. But not this time. This time, something inside me said, "Burn it all down." I still had the original photos from the shoot high-res files, unedited. Guess who paid the photographer directly and had access to the cloud link? Me. And guess who was actually in a few of the photos from when I dropped off the outfits and helped herd the kids into position? Me. I sat at my desk for hours that night, designing my own version of the Christmas card. Their card had said, "Family is everything." Mine said, "Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up." I cropped them out, left only me, smiling with the kids, added a quote about chosen family. And in bold red script, I added, "Guess who paid for this?" Then I printed 100 copies. Glossy, high-quality cardstock. I mailed them to every address in my mom's Christmas list, which she'd conveniently sent me last year to help with postage. Neighbors, church friends, her boss, Caroline's PTA circle, and then I waited. It took 3 days for the first text to come in. "Why did you send this? Is everything okay? What happened?" I didn't answer. By day 5, My dad called. His voice was a low growl. "You've embarrassed your mother." I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. Did I? Because being erased felt pretty embarrassing too. Click. No one said sorry. Of course not. But the silence said everything. The illusion cracked. The grip they had on me, the guilt, the shame, the obligation, it all started to fall away. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The silence lasted 2 weeks. And honestly, I savored every second of it. I didn't realize how loud my family had been in my head until it stopped like turning off a radio that's been blasting static for years. For the first time, I slept through the night without clutching my phone, waiting for a guilt trip text or a passive-aggressive voicemail. I expected them to retaliate. I didn't expect how. It started with Caroline. Of course it did. My sister has always been the family PR agent, the one who spins every story to make herself the hero and everyone else the villain. She posted a photo on Facebook of her and the kids, captioned, "Some people spread hate. We choose joy." A dozen of her friends commented with heart emojis and prayers. One wrote, "You're such a strong mama. Don't let toxic energy get to you. Toxic me." Then came Mom. She went the quieter route. She emailed me a paragraph titled Thoughts. It wasn't an apology. It was a PowerPoint of emotional manipulation. "You've always been so emotional. We didn't mean to hurt you. We don't know what we did wrong." And my personal favorite, "Your father's blood pressure has been high since your little stunt. We're worried about his heart." That's when the guilt started creeping in again, like mold growing through a crack in the wall. Was I overreacting? Was it really that bad? Did I actually want to be cut off? But then I remembered something. 2 years ago, I had surgery. It wasn't major, but recovery took a few weeks. Caroline never called. My mom sent one text, "Let us know when you're back to normal." I'd been lying in bed with stitches and nausea while they threw a birthday party for Caroline's dog. Not even kidding, so no, I wasn't being dramatic. I was finally being honest. When I didn't respond to the email, they escalated. My mom showed up at my job. I was sitting at my desk, halfway through reviewing a campaign proposal, when my receptionist buzzed me. Your mom is here?" She says it's an emergency." Panic spiked in my throat like acid. I hadn't seen her in person since before Christmas. She looked exactly the same, flawlessly put together, fake pearls and all. The only thing different was her expression. That fake, pinched smile she wore when she was about to deliver a backhanded compliment or a social bomb. She didn't even sit down. "I just don't understand why you're doing this," she said, arms crossed over her coat like armor. "You're hurting the family. Is that what you want?" I opened my mouth to speak. She raised a hand. "No. You're going to listen. Your sister is devastated. Your father is stressed. And now you're sending out vile postcards to our neighbors? You want to humiliate us? Is that it?" My voice was shaky but firm. "You humiliated me first. You've been doing it for years." She blinked like I'd slapped her. "I paid for everything, Mom," I said, louder now. "The photographer, the clothes, the cards, and you couldn't even include me. Not even a signature," she scoffed. "Oh, please. That's what this is about? A picture?" "No," I said. "It's about being erased. And I'm done letting you pretend that's okay." She stormed out. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even look back. The fallout came quick. My bank flagged a charge attempt from my dad's Amazon account on a card I hadn't used in 6 months. One I'd forgotten was linked to a joint family emergency fund I used to manage before I stopped bailing them out. I changed all my passwords, shut down shared logins, called the bank and reported unauthorized use. Within 24 hours, my phone blew up. "Dad, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Caroline, I can't believe you canceled the account without warning. We needed that money." "Mom, we raised you better than this." Every message was soaked in entitlement. Not one asked how I was doing. Not one said sorry. That was the moment I stopped feeling bad. I blocked Caroline, muted my parents, cleaned out the last shared drawer in my filing cabinet labeled family, and fed it through the shredder like a ritual. I started therapy the same week. I told the therapist everything about the card, the years of emotional gaslighting, the financial manipulation. She didn't look shocked. She looked like someone who'd heard this 100 times before. You were trained to make yourself smaller, she said, to carry their burdens so you wouldn't be abandoned. But now that you're not shrinking anymore, they're punishing you for growing. I cried the whole drive home. The thing about standing up to people who raised you in toxicity is that it feels like treason at first, like ripping out a part of yourself. I wasn't just cutting off my family, I was cutting off the version of me that still hoped they would love me the way I needed them to. But part of me, some small, angry, fire-breathing part, was finally alive, and she wanted more. I started going through old emails, digging through receipts, looking at Venmo transactions, old text messages, shared folders I'd forgotten existed. And what I found? It was worse than I thought. Caroline had been using my login to access my streaming subscriptions, order takeout, even use my hotel rewards. My mom had listed me as a co-signer on a car loan without my knowledge. And my dad? He'd listed me as a dependent on his taxes. Last year, it was like they didn't even see me as a real person. Just a tool, a wallet with a beating heart. That's when I knew this wasn't just revenge anymore. This was war. One didn't cry when I saw my name on my father's tax documents. I didn't scream when I confirmed that my sister had ordered over $700 worth of food with my login over 6 months. I didn't even flinch when I saw that my mother had submitted a credit application with my name and social security number on it. Just in case, she would probably say. I didn't cry. I got angry. There's a difference. I went back to the therapist the next day. She took one look at my face and said, "You found something, didn't you?" It turns out, when you stop trying to be the family savior and start becoming a detective, the world opens up. I began keeping a private folder hidden behind layers of encryption and labeled something harmless like work expenses Q4. Inside it, screenshots, PDFs, scanned forms, downloaded bank statements. A list of every time I had loaned money to my family dating back 10 years. The total was just over $63,000. That number knocked the air out of me. I had worked overtime, canceled vacations, skipped birthday gifts for myself, all to make sure they had what they needed. And it wasn't just money, it was time. Babysitting Caroline's kids at midnight, cleaning my dad's garage when he threw out his back for the 5th time, planning mom's birthday brunch because you're so organized, honey, $63,000. And not a penny had been paid back. The worst part? I knew if I told them that number, they'd laugh, call it dramatic, say it wasn't that serious, maybe even accuse me of faking it. I needed proof, not just for them, but for me. That's when I remembered Michelle. Michelle is my cousin on my dad's side, the quiet one, the one no one invites to family functions anymore because she's too blunt and doesn't understand loyalty, which in my family is code for won't put up with our crap. I hadn't talked to her in years, but something told me she'd understand. I messaged her, "Hey, random question, have you ever had a weird experience with my parents or Caroline? Financial stuff?" She replied in less than a minute, "Girl, sit down. Do you want a Zoom call or a Dropbox folder?" Michelle had receipts. Turns out she loaned Caroline $3,000 years ago to help cover a custody emergency. She was promised it would be repaid in 6 months. She never saw a dime. When she asked about it a year later, my mom told her to stop harassing the family and accused her of trying to ruin Caroline's mental health. She also had screenshots, emails, even a voicemail from my mom saying, "We just assumed you were helping because you're doing well. I thought you cared about family." Sound familiar? Together, we started digging. Michelle had been blacklisted from the family, not because she was a problem, but because she stopped being useful. And now, the same thing was happening to me. Michelle and I started talking daily, swapping stories, timelines, bank trails. I finally said the words out loud. "I think they've been financially abusing me for years." She didn't flinch. "Of course they have," she said. "It's what they do. You were the responsible one. That's code for person we can guilt into anything." With her help, I started organizing everything into a report. Not just for the confrontation I knew was coming, but for legal protection. Identity theft, fraud, and financial coercion don't just make you feel crazy. Sometimes they're actual crimes. And I was ready to fight back. But before I could launch my revenge, I needed one more piece of the puzzle. I needed to know why. Why me? Why was I the designated punching bag, wallet, errand runner, scapegoat? Why did my parents keep choosing Caroline, who lied, manipulated, and used people over me? The answer came from a voicemail. One they didn't mean for me to hear. It was a pocket dial from my mom's phone. At first, it was just muffled noise. Then, her voice came through sharp and smug. I mean, come on, she was always the difficult one. Always so. Sensitive. Always needing attention. She didn't even want kids. What's the point of helping her? My dad laughed. At least Caroline gives us grandkids. What does my name do? Work. Thinks she's better than us just because she pays her bills. Then Caroline chimed in. God knows where they were, having a full roast session without realizing they were being recorded. She's obsessed with being fair. Like, grow up. Life's not fair. If she really cared about family, she'd stop acting like a martyr. The recording was 2 minutes and 38 seconds of confirmation. They didn't love me. Not really. They loved what I gave them. My money, my energy, my guilt. And now that I'd stopped supplying it, they were circling like vultures, mocking me for bleeding. I sat with that knowledge for a full day. Let it harden in my chest like stone. Then I hit play again. And again. And finally, I made a copy. The first wave of revenge would be subtle, strategic. I closed the last shared financial account, filed a formal identity theft report, and included copies of the car loan application my mother forged, reported the unauthorized use of my SSN, froze my credit, changed every password I'd ever used, set up two-factor authentication on everything from Netflix to TurboTax. Then I printed out the report Michelle and I built, complete with spreadsheets, screenshots, and highlighted timelines. I didn't send it to the family. Not yet. I mailed it to myself, certified, unopened, in case I ever needed it in court. Then I did something that was both petty and wildly satisfying. Remember that family friend who always hosts the 4th of July party? The one who loves drama but pretends she doesn't? Her name's Denise. The first sent her a carefully worded message with a few screenshots. Just enough to plant seeds. Nothing false. Just illuminating. Within 3 days, I got a text from Caroline. What the hell did you tell Denise? She uninvited us from the lake house. I didn't respond. I was done explaining myself to people who only listened when it cost them something. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The thing about revenge is that it's not about making them hurt. Not really. It's about watching them lose the power they never should have had over you. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of them. I wasn't trying to be heard, to be understood, to be loved. I didn't need closure or reconciliation. I needed freedom. And sometimes, freedom comes wrapped in fire. The certified report I'd mailed to myself. I opened it one morning with coffee in one hand and a notary on Zoom. I signed an affidavit, attached documentation, and filed it along with my police report for identity theft. I listed my mother as the primary suspect. 2 weeks later, she got a letter from the state. Then a call. I didn't have to be there to know how it went. I imagined her sitting at the kitchen table, her perfect nails tapping the counter, face flushed with indignation, her voice dripping with fake innocence. This is all just a misunderstanding. My daughter would never do something like this, except I did. And I had proof. She called me that night. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, all sugar and acid. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're ruining this family. Whatever you're going through, we can work it out, but you need to stop before it gets worse. Before it gets worse. That part made me laugh, because worse was already knocking. Michelle had done some extra digging and found something even I hadn't seen coming. My dad had claimed me as a dependent for 4 consecutive years after I moved out and became financially independent. That's federal tax fraud. She connected me with a tax attorney who helped me file a whistleblower report. And I didn't just do it out of spite. I did it because I was sick of being collateral damage in their schemes. If they were going to use me as a pawn, they were going to choke on the consequences. But revenge isn't just paperwork. It's public. Remember the Christmas card? Yeah, that was the spark. Now I wanted the whole bonfire. So I created a new card. A follow-up, if you will. This time, it wasn't glossy. It wasn't cheerful. It was truth. Front. A photo of me alone, smiling, standing in front of my new apartment. Inside, a message that read, "To everyone wondering why I wasn't in last year's Christmas card, I was busy paying for the clothes, photographer, and gifts, then being erased. If you've ever loaned Caroline money, helped my parents financially, or been guilted into family favors, I suggest checking your records. Love," the one they called dramatic. I mailed it to the same list my mom had used: church friends, neighbors, her bridge group, Caroline's PTA circle. Even Denise got a second copy. This time, the fallout wasn't silence. It was fireworks. Denise forwarded it to 2 other neighbors, who forwarded it to their husbands, one of whom was a CPA. He'd helped my dad organize some of those taxes, and now he was livid. Caroline posted a vague status on Facebook: "Family should be loyal. Blood doesn't make you better. Some people just want attention." I commented, "Attention is expensive. Just ask my Venmo history." She blocked me. Then the emails started rolling in, from people I barely remembered: old babysitters, childhood friends, former coworkers of my mom. One said, "Your card made me cry. I cut my sister off last year. I thought I was the only one." Another, "I knew something was off with your mom. She tried to get a church volunteer to co-sign a loan once." And then the biggest domino fell. Caroline's husband left her. Apparently, he'd been unaware of a lot. The loans she'd gotten from me? She told him it was her savings. The vacations she paid for? Funded through my emergency fund and maxed out cards under my name. When he found out, he walked. Took the kids. Moved in with his sister. She was scrambling for child support while trying to explain to the school why her PTA dues bounced. My parents? They were suddenly very interested in rebuilding. I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. Pages long. My mother's voice was all over it, flowery, manipulative, and terrified. "We've made mistakes, but we never stopped loving you. This family has been through so much. Can't we just move forward? What will the neighbors think if this keeps going?" That last line was the most honest one she wrote. What will the neighbors think? Not, "What have we done?" Not, "How did we hurt you?" But, "How do we make this disappear?" My dad sent a shorter note. 2 lines. "You made your point. Enough now. Let's handle this like adults." It was the first time in my life I saw them scared of me, and it still wasn't enough. So I made one final move. I scheduled a family meeting at my lawyer's office. Didn't tell them why, just said, "Show up if you want answers." They did. I arrived last. Black blazer, red lipstick, a manila envelope in hand. The room was small, tense. My parents sat on one side. Caroline sat opposite, looking like she wanted to crawl out of her own skin. I sat across from them, looked each of them in the eye, and then I slid the envelope across the table. Inside was everything. The money, the screenshots, the fraud, the voicemail, the whistleblower filing, a list of every account I'd closed, every login I'd changed, every favor, every dollar, every secret. "I'm done," I said. "This is not a negotiation, this is notification." They didn't speak. Not at first. My mom's face turned red. My dad's jaw clenched. Caroline looked like she might cry. "I'm not asking for money back," I said. "I'm not suing you yet. But I am free. You don't get to call, text, show up, or talk about me. Not to each other, not to neighbors, not to God. If you do?" I nodded to my lawyer. "He knows what to do next." They still didn't speak. I stood. Caroline whispered, "You're ruining everything." I leaned down, smiled, and said, "No, I'm fixing it." Then I walked out, and I didn't look back. There's a kind of silence that comes after a storm, not emptiness, clarity. That's what my life felt like in the weeks after the meeting. Quiet, clean, mine. No more random calls at midnight. No more guilt-laced texts. No more obligation wrapped in manipulation. Just stillness. At first, I didn't know what to do with it. I'd spent so long waiting for the other shoe to drop, bracing for the next emotional ambush. My nervous system was still on high alert, trained for chaos. But it never came. They didn't call. Not after the lawyer. Not after I told them, in no uncertain terms, that I was finished playing the role they wrote for me. Caroline deactivated her Facebook for a while. My mother retreated into vague, cryptic posts about forgiveness and family wounds. My dad? He disappeared into silence, probably hoping if he ignored everything, it would go away. I moved on. I repainted my apartment, tossed the old furniture I hated but had kept because Mom picked it, bought plants and bookshelves and a new coffee maker, the kind I never would have splurged on before, because there was always someone else who needed something more. But not anymore. My needs weren't second anymore. They weren't even negotiable. They were mine. And I was finally taking up space in my own damn life. I started saying no, loudly, unapologetically, to extra projects that drained me, to friendly invites from people who just wanted gossip, to the neighbor who tried to rope me into a condo board drama. No, the word tasted good, like freedom. Michelle and I stayed close. We weren't just cousins now, we were co-survivors. We started calling it toxic family detox, weekly check-ins, celebratory rants, shared playlists called Scorched Earth and Healing Energy. I wish I could say I didn't miss them, my parents, my sister, but that would be a lie. You don't spend your life chasing scraps of love without leaving part of yourself behind. There were moments, still are, when I see a commercial for a Hallmark movie or walk past a Christmas display and feel that hollow ache. But then I remember, nostalgia isn't love. It's grief dressed up like memory. I wasn't grieving them. I was grieving the fantasy I fought so hard to believe in, that if I just worked harder, gave more, kept smiling through the cuts, they'd see me, choose me, love me back the way I needed, but they didn't, and they won't. That's not tragic anymore. It's just true, and truth is something I can live with. A month after the confrontation, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Handwritten in the overly neat, looped letters I'd recognize anywhere, Mom. It wasn't long. We're worried about you. This isn't you. Please come home. We miss our daughter. I stared at the word home for a long time. It was never my home. It was their house, their rules, their needs, their world. I just paid rent in guilt and gratitude. I burned the letter in my kitchen sink. Caroline tried next. A text from a new number. The kids miss you. They ask about you all the time. I sat with that one. I did love her kids. I'd been there since they were born. First teeth, Halloween costumes, scraped knees, and bedtime stories. I'd helped raise them in the background while Caroline took all the credit. But love shouldn't be used like bait, not when it's tied to barbed wire. So I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, out of kindness to myself. And that kindness grew. I started waking up without dread, cooking for myself, walking for the sake of walking, not to escape. I applied for a promotion I never would have dared to ask for before. Got it. Went on a date, my first real one in years. And when the guy interrupted me 3 times in a row to talk about his podcast, I smiled, paid my half, and left. No drama, no over-explaining, just no. One night, months later, I found the original Christmas card, the one that started it all. It was in a drawer I hadn't touched in ages. I held it for a second. Everyone smiling, matching sweaters. Me, nowhere. And I didn't feel sad. I laughed. Because that photo, so staged, so curated, wasn't proof of unity. It was evidence of erasure. And now, I was done being invisible. I took a Sharpie and wrote on the back. They cropped me out, so I cropped them out of my life. Then I dropped it in the trash. And I swear I slept like a baby that night. They still talk about me, from what I hear through the grapevine, say I'm going through something. That I've changed. They're right, I have. I stopped performing. I stopped shrinking. I stopped bleeding for people who never bothered to bring bandages. They call me selfish now, cold, unforgiving. But I call it something else. Healing. I don't need revenge anymore. Not really. Because the best revenge wasn't the report, or the card, or the confrontation. It's this. It's peace. It's walking down the street on a sunny afternoon, knowing no one is going to call me dramatic for setting boundaries. Knowing no one is secretly draining my accounts or rewriting my story. It's freedom with no apology. They called me selfish for leaving, but I finally feel like I can breathe. And that's enough. Story 2. My dad revealed that we cast our votes during our family gathering. You'll either pay my dad back or you'll be kicked out of the family. They applauded and toasted. I grinned. Pulled out a USB stick and connected it to the television. As the video rolled, I remarked, "Here's my vote." Their faces turned white, and one day my father got up, lifted his glass, and declared, We cast our votes. Either you settle my debt or you're kicked out of the family. Everyone chuckled. Everybody but me, I blinked. I believed I had misheard him. What? I looked around the room and inquired, but people were clapping already. The phony smile my sister usually wore when she knew she would want anything was directed at me. She sipped her wine and murmured, "Come on, don't make that face. It's not a huge concern." My aunt nodded and added, "It's a family decision," as though it made sense. When my mother remarked, "You're the only one who can help. And frankly, it's time you did something real for once." She didn't even glance up from her plate. I chuckled. I was unable to resist. It was hollow and pointy, something tangible. "You mean other than the years of," I answered. I halted. Not right now. Not in this manner. I anticipated a snicker or embarrassment from my father. He was composed, though. Cool. "The resources have always been yours," he stated bluntly. "All we're asking is that you put them to good use." My cousin reclined on his seat. "We're not requesting your death or anything. For once, just be helpful." Beneficial? The term stuck. I surveyed the table. None of them appeared uneasy, and they were all in on it. Not even Kelly, who had previously sobbed on my shoulder because she was unable to pay her rent after her husband, my brother, spent all of their funds on cryptocurrency. She simply stared at me now as if I owed them something. Whoa. Silently, I said, "This is actually taking place." Jacob, my brother, lifted his glass. "Man, it's not personal. Families simply do that." "No," I said. "This family does that." For a brief while, the room became silent. My mother then sneered. "Give up being a victim." I carefully pushed my chair back. "All I'm trying to do is comprehend. Behind my back, you all sat around and decided that I should clean up someone else's mess." My sister smiled. "If we're informing you now, it's not behind your back." My father laughed. As I stood there, I absorbed everything. My cousin prepared the dumb little name cards for the family reunion, then there were the plates, the wine, the clinking glasses, and more. They presented it as a festivity, as if I ought to be honored. I didn't feel honored, though. I felt worse and more exploited. I understood that this was nothing new. For the first time, they would no longer pretend. I continued to smile at my brother as though this whole situation was amusing. "Do you folks truly believe that I'll comply with this?" I inquired. He gave a shrug. "We're confident you will. You always do." I didn't answer. I just produced the tiny black USB stick from my jacket pocket. "I suppose it's time for me to show you what I brought." My sister's smile wavered. "What is that?" she inquired. I approached the TV in the room's corner gently and plugged it in. "You referred to it as a vote? Okay, this is mine." I couldn't help but wonder how we got here as that film loaded. Frame by frame, lie by lie. Thus a vote wasn't the first step. At 2 a.m, it began with a phone call. It began with a family who understood precisely how to make me fold, and shame wrapped in a grin. I apologize for the late call. With a tone full of phony remorse, my father had added. "However, I'm in a bit of a dilemma with your mother. They were always. It was the mortgage at the moment. Before that, car difficulty was the cause. Next came the energy bill and the water heater. My cousin's mental health retreat in Arizona, my brother's failed company, and my sister's tuition. There was a new emergency every month, as well as each time I made a payment. I was taught to do that after all. The only steady person is you. You're good with money, they'd remark. You're not wed. You have no children. You can afford to assist. And you believe we didn't make sacrifices for you while I hesitated? Without us, you wouldn't even be here today. You're really self-centered. I believed them once. I used to give them credit for my guilt. When I stopped being invisible, the true issue began. I updated my car, bought an apartment, and was promoted. Nothing ostentatious. Simple things for someone in their 30s who had been working hard for 10 years. They began speaking behind my back at that point. "Do you notice the vehicle? Is he now a driver?" At Thanksgiving, my cousin David claimed that you would believe he was a drug dealer. My sister. "He has a 65-inch TV, yet it's odd that he can't help with mom's medications all of a sudden. He's wandering and behaving superior to the rest of us, including my mother." My uncle's trash talk at a pub was overheard by my coworker Amber, which is how I found out. I once bailed out my uncle's DUI court costs. 6 weeks before to the reunion, everything came to a head. I received an unexpected call from my brother Jacob. He seemed remarkably upbeat. "I need your help," he said. I took a while to respond. He saw, "Oh, hurry up. It's not really important." He chuckled. "It's only $22,000. I nearly dropped my phone. For what purpose? Dad's debt." Casually, he said, as if he were placing a pizza order. "The one from Uncle Mark's loan that he co-signed. It's expanding. We assumed you would take care of it. We calculated. Yes." "Oh," he said. "Me? Mom? Dad?" "Liz, Dave, we had a conversation without me." He sighed and said, "You're always so hard to pin down. We knew you would be reasonable about it, but it seemed like I was being tough." "Reasonable?" I didn't shout. I didn't end the call. I just said no. After a lull, there was laughing. "Man, hurry up. Avoid being theatrical. It's only financial. Then make the payment yourself." "I have children," I said. He lost his temper. "You fail to click." They began preparing to cast their ballots at that time, though I was unaware of it. My mother texted me 2 days later, "We must speak. Family is important." My sister's next one. "Next month, everyone will gather. No justifications. You'll be there." They didn't inquire. They called. I initially believed it may be just another guilt trip. Another plea, maybe. It wasn't a proclamation of obligation, which surprised me. However, I ought to have. Because to them, I was just that, duty in the human form. Rehearsed grins and simmering anger filled the weeks before the reunion. My mom called to see how I was doing. "How is the work going?" With sweetness, she inquired. "Too busy?" I said. "I'm still employed at the downtown office, the one by the bank." I could almost hear her doing the maths. Next, my sister called. "Given how well you're doing, I was considering taking Mom and Dad on a trip the following year." "They are deserving. They certainly do." Quiet. "That Christmas stuff isn't bothering you anymore, are you?" She was talking about the time I got her daughter a laptop, and she claimed I was attempting to buy her love. She gave me a mug that read "Least Festive Family Member" the same year. The night before the reunion was the final straw. I met my cousin Dave at the petrol station while I was out getting groceries. I saw him leaning against his car, giggling with another cousin, bragging, and waving a cigar. But he didn't see me. Yes, tomorrow we will give him the full force. If he fails to make payment, he's gone. I felt sick to my stomach. "Do you believe he will?" the other cousin inquired. Dave snorted. "Please. He folds every time. All you have to do is put pressure on him in front of everyone. Give him the impression that it's customary or something." They chuckled. After turning, I walked back to my car and sat for 15 minutes in silence. I then began calling people who owed me favors, people who had information, and someone who assisted me in retrieving some very specific footage from a few years ago. There was more to that USB stick than meets the eye. It was a fuse, and I was going to light it tomorrow. The room became silent. I connected the USB. I crossed my arms and walked back to my seat. Nothing to say. Just a pause in the TV's software when it turns on. "Really?" My sister scoffingly said. "What is this? A demonstration?" I didn't respond. My father moved in his seat. My mom frowned like I'd brought a loaded gun to dinner. In a way, I had the screen lit up. Video file. Final reunion. Wimpy for playing. First frame. Dimly lit footage from a parking garage. My father's car and him climbing out in the middle of the night, pacing, pulling a crumpled bedding slip from his coat pocket. Then a voice. His voice. "Just one more. If I win this, I can cover last week's loss." Gasps around the room. Next. Footage from the casino floor. My father hunched over a blackjack table, chips flying, slamming his fist down, security walking over. Then a bank statement. Withdrawals. Same day, same time, $4,000, $3,500, $2,200. Finally, a photo timestamped showing my dad offering cash to a man outside a pub. A known loan shark. I'd done my homework. I paused the video. Quiet. No one moved. Nobody said anything. I turned to my mother first. "Still think this is about medical debt?" She looked like she was about to get ill. "Where did you obtain that?" My father inquired. Voice hoarse. "Oh, it's not just me," I said. "Uncle Rob knew. Dave knew. I suspect even Jacob knew. but no one said a thing. You simply waited for me to arrive so you could lash out at me once more. Jacob turned his head away. This is being twisted by you. At last, my mother lost it. There is an issue with your father. He requires assistance. I gave a harsh, resentful chuckle. No, he needs to be held accountable. You all need someone to place the blame on and provide funding for. My father pounded the table with his hand. Do you believe that you are now superior to us? Is that it? I believe I am no longer your bank account. I'm amazed at your lack of gratitude. Sharply, he said. No, I interrupted him. Lying to your whole family about it is being unappreciative. Medical emergency. When you have years of experience losing money at poker tables, it's rude to plan a family get-together just to set up an ambush. Angrily, my sister got to her feet. What are you doing? You are degrading him. I'm making him seem bad. I walked over to her. Remember all the times you cried while sitting in my flat because your cards were maxed out? And I settled them? Remember when you said that you were the only decent member of this family? That was just prior to you using my credit to obtain a new loan for your vehicle. Do you recall that? She opened and closed her mouth. My mother responded, You're attempting to destroy this family. No, I responded coolly. When you determined it was okay to utilize one of your own, such as an ATM with a pulse, you already took that action. Dave, my cousin, got to his feet. This is absurd. What the heck? He struggles with gambling. Your dad is still there. You then paid off his loan. I lost my temper. They went cold. That's right. To dump this on me, you all cast your votes. Well, I vote no, I answered. No, I vote. At last, Jacob's voice was quiet. Do not bother returning if you go now. I looked him in the eyes. Then you may consider me gone. My dad got up. Final opportunity. We'll forget the circus ever happened since you are the money this week. It's funny. Grabbing my coat, I said, I want just that. He took a step forward as if to stop me, but he must have been repelled by something in my face. I grabbed for the doorknob and proceeded to the door. Don't return if you go, my mother said. I made one final spin around. I didn't intend to. After that, I left. Not overrun. Didn't run. For the first time in my life, I walked with my head held high. It was quieter than I had anticipated. I was expecting anger, screaming, calls, messages, and guilt trips abound. However, nothing was present. Not a single message? No. We must speak. Nothing but quiet. Oddly enough, I enjoyed it. I woke up without a dull pressure in my chest for the first time in years. No embarrassment, no unseen burden of other people's troubles. I left for work. I went to the gym. I didn't make any big phone calls, and I had peaceful dinners. I even took out my sketchbook, which I hadn't used in almost 10 years. I felt as though my breathing had returned at last. However, I was aware that my family would not tolerate it that way. In the third week, it took place. I noticed a person standing outside my building while I was making my way home while sipping coffee. Recognized stance, red eyes, stiff shoulders. My mom was the one. As if it were an offering, she held a container of food. May I enter? Quietly, she asked. I remained silent. Simply opened the door. In my kitchen, we sat. She put the pie on the table as if it would make the past disappear. In the same way that handmade crust might heal betrayal. You must know, she murmured, hardly raising her voice above a whisper. Your dad? He's in the medical facility. I didn't recoil. Last night, he suffered a heart attack. He's in the intensive care unit. Hold on. Immediately following the bank's lawsuit on the outstanding debts. I remained silent, though. In her lap, she curled her hands. I wasn't here to solicit money. I looked up because of it. From behind her, she withdrew a yellowed envelope. Something caught my eye in the pantry. It's for you. After setting it on the table, she got up. When everything began to come apart, he wrote it. He kept it even though he never intended to give it to you. Without waiting for me to read it in my father's handwriting on the envelope's front, she departed. Give this to him if I ever lose myself entirely. Just him. I opened it with trembling hands, son. I am aware that I am viewed as powerful by everybody. I have always played that version. It wasn't strength, though. It was sickness. Taking a chance, eat me alive, and I drew them all in with me. The worst aspect. You. It was simply you who didn't inquire, and the only one I kept asking. I lost more than simply money. In the most important item, I lost my dignity. You. By the time you read this, everything has fallen apart. If you never forgive me, I understand. But please be aware of this. You weren't at blame, I was. I am not worthy of your pardon. But just once, I needed you to hear me say it. I read it 3 times, Dad. Every time I felt something shatter inside of me. It was not deceptive. No, it wasn't. I'm ill. Pardon me. Why am I in possession of money? Failure was the result. Honest, genuine, and unvarnished. He wasn't speaking to me for the first time in my life. He was speaking to me. I visited the hospital the next day. He was white, sinking into the bed, beeping machinery and cables attached. My mother sat quietly next to him. When I stepped in, she nodded but said nothing. He noticed me when he opened his eyes. He didn't grin. He remained silent. All he did was cry. I was at a loss for words as I stood there. It wasn't rage, though, for the first time. I sensed. It was void. I said, I got the letter. He gave a nod. Thank you for the truth, not the words. We sat quietly. But I'm not coming back, I said. I will not assist. All I want to do is go on. He didn't argue either. He only nodded one more, and he made no requests for the first time in his life. I almost ran into my cousin Dave as I was leaving the room. He had a terrible appearance. Bloodshot eyes. Unshaven, he muttered. Heard you came. I've been a terrible person, you see. It's true. Not even offended. He nodded. I also brought something. I refused to. However, you ought to view this. He gave his phone to me. The video was a blurry security footage from a casino. My dad was seated at a table. Dave was standing next to him. Dave was also giving him money. Slowly, I turned to face him. Did you give him cash? Dave's face became white. It was a prelude, a plan. I cleaned money via Uncle Rick's gaming and utilized his identity. It came back to me after he lost it. Real. Although that was all part of it, everyone believed he was drowning. I don't recall making the walk home. I recall my hands shaking, but I don't recall opening the door. It was a falsehood. My dad was more than a crazy gambler. He was Dave's stand-in. The whole family was aware that the vote wasn't about supporting my dad. Dave needed to be protected. Dave's wife sent me a message that evening. I learned everything. I wanted to express my gratitude, but I'm going to file for divorce. The only person with the courage to tear down the curtain was you. We were all too terrified. At that point, I realized there was no collapse here. It was a purification. I hadn't just left. The rod had been torn from under the surface by me. And at last, with nothing but the truth underneath me, I could construct something genuine on my own. 3 months. It has been that long since the day I left. No texts, no calls, no unexpected raps on my door, not even a bit of guilt. Cheers to your birthday. Nothing. It was also lovely. Silence felt liberating for the first time in my life. I was able to breathe. I could go to sleep. I didn't have to figure out who I was to exist. It was a disappointing week. And it was sufficient for a time. Right up till yesterday night. Right up till the knock. It was late. After midnight. I had no expectations. Perhaps a neighbor, I reasoned. A delivery to the incorrect door, perhaps. My sister Emily was standing there when I opened it. A mess here. Eyes bloodshot as if she hadn't slept for days. Mascara smeared. I remained silent. Without asking, she went inside, as Mom did when we were little. This time, however, there was no practiced superiority or smugness. She appeared to be broken. Her voice was hardly audible as she added, I didn't know where else to go. They interrupted me. My back was to the counter. Who was it? Everyone. She sank into a chair after dropping her suitcase on the ground. She stated Dave's divorce was made public. Brian left with the children. He gave my mother screenshots of every text I sent. The ones where I made a joke about how you would most likely crawl back at some point. I didn't recoil. Dad is being investigated, she said. Apparently, Grandma's name was used to open several of those gaming accounts. That struck a new chord. Grandma suffered from dementia. 5 years left in her life. Scarcely recognized the year. They also made use of her. I turned to face Emily. She wasn't in tears. She had nothing inside of her. Like someone who recently discovered that the foundation of her ego was composed of damp cardboard. With haste, she responded, I'm not here for money. I've learned better. I arched an eyebrow. I wanted to tell you something, which is why I came. Quiet. You were correct, she muttered. We treated you horribly. I treated you horribly. I folded my arms. Her gaze was fixed on the ground. The day we cast our ballots, the huge reunion. I was well aware that Dad's debt was not only due to his gambling. I was aware of Dave. That wounded worse than anything, but I didn't care. It was simpler to let you carry it, I told myself. She went on. You did it every time. Why not again? At last, she glanced up at me. But when you stood there and refused, you didn't. For that, I detested you. Slowly, I nodded, and now, her voice broke. You have my envy now. She was there for at least an hour, never requested to crash on the sofa. We didn't act as though we would start afresh. Silently, she departed, leaving me alone in the kitchen by myself once more. However, the sense of loneliness had vanished. Something else seems to be involved. Similar to closing, similar to justice. I checked my email early the next morning. Someone I hadn't spoken to in years left a message. Brian. Subject. Thank you. I wanted to say something I had never uttered before. Thank you. Not only for revealing your actions, but also for enduring them. I used to believe that I had to accept everything with a smile and that there was no way out. Seeing you leave, it authorized me to follow suit. I now have complete custody. The children are doing well. Sometimes I tell them about you, regarding the uncle who maintained his resolve. When you're ready, they want to meet you. Go slowly. We'll be present. I grinned every time I read it 3 times. Because I lighted the match in a house that used to feel like a jail. Another person also managed to escape that fire. I packed up the rest of my belongings last week, traveled around the state. A new number, a new flat, clean air, actual limits. No more manipulation-laced family meals. No more phony check-ins that resulted in demands for Venmo. It's time to stop feeling like a paycheck. I resumed my drawing. Do you have a studio? Next month, I'll be opening a tiny show. I completed a matchstick on black canvas as my first item. Below is a single word, enough, for that is the reality. They didn't anticipate that I would discover that love is meaningless without respect. Without trust, that family is poison. And it's not selfish to say no, it's a revolution. Story 3, this Easter, you're not welcome, my mother muttered. All right, but don't count on my $9,800. I stated as I turned off their home's internet, water, and power. Stay out of here. When my mother answered the door, they were the first words she uttered. No grin, no embrace. No, honey. Happy Easter. The breath left my lungs after hearing only 3 calm, flat words. With a basket of handcrafted chocolate eggs in one hand and a glass of wine in the other, I stood on the porch. Even the pale blue blouse she liked was mine. My eyes widened at the one she stated. That's what she used to say proudly. She refused to even look at me now. What? I blinked. Are you serious? After taking a quick look behind her, my mom went outside and shut the door nearly completely. Only a little portion was exposed, as if I posed a threat. She muttered, "It would be better if you didn't come in today." Around me, the air froze. To get here, I drove 3 hours. I understand, she responded, her voice still low. However, Olivia stated she wouldn't come if you were present. And things are tight. Naturally. Olivia. I ought to have realized she was responsible for this. She was always. Through the clinking of wine glasses, I heard laughter. Cheers to real family being together, was shouted by someone who was most likely Uncle James. Then I heard Olivia's sweet, booming voice. To be honest, it feels very calm this year. No drama, no negativity. I didn't shout even though I wanted to. I simply grinned serenely. That smirk that screams, "You don't know what's coming." What do you know? Taking out my phone, I said. All right, have a restful Easter, but don't count on my $9,800 anymore. My mother's expression changed. Bewildered, she blinked. How much money? Slowly, she asked. I gave her a direct look. The internet, the water, and the electricity. The monthly costs for this residence that I have been paying. The services. You claim to need it, only until Dad is able to stand again. You know what? I just turned them off, even though they are in my name. Her mouth parted. then shut again. She became pallid. What? You kept it from me. You didn't. I cocked my phone. Have you seen this app? Just a single tap. I touched the screen with my thumb. From within, the lights go out. Olivia's yelling caught my attention. Just now, the Wi-Fi went down. What was that? Mom? I took a step back, but I had lunch for the phone. Happy Easter, I said. I walked back to my car after turning. Nobody trailed behind. I was sitting behind the wheel and nobody apologized. Olivia appeared at the doorway behind my mother, holding her phone high and her cheeks flushed. Are you insane? We were going to lunch, I shouted back and rolled down the window. Give your actual family a call. Next month, they might pay the bills. I then took off in my car, not guilty. No second thoughts. At that point, I ceased to be their personal utility company and turned into a ghost they could no longer take advantage of. I used to convince myself that I was the one who was responsible and that I was helping. That family required sacrifice. I made a lot of promises to myself, like when I was in the middle of a meeting and my dad phoned. Powers are shutting off, he stated frankly. Again, what? I stepped out into the hallway and whispered, only for a few days. I'll send it back by Friday if you can cover it, he added. I paid him nonetheless, and he never returned it. As usual, I have a lengthy family history of being taken without asking. I've been allowing them for a while. I took over to help with the utilities when Dad lost his job 3 years ago. Mom became insecure when she needed a dental procedure that wasn't urgent. When Olivia couldn't afford to renew her car lease, I took care of it. I paid the first 6 months and co-signed the new one. It felt good at first. I was the one who had it together, the one who could be trusted. But gradually, that awe evolved into anticipation. First entitlement, then contempt. You're very fortunate not to have children. At dinner, Olivia would say, you own all of your money. It must be pleasant. Are you referring to the funds I utilized to settle your bills? I answered once. Oh, please. She laughed. Don't make it seem like a charity. Do you enjoy feeling better than others? Mom added. That wasn't how she meant it. No, I meant exactly that, Olivia said, smirking. You pay a few bills, so you think we should bow down? A couple of bills? Let's talk about a couple bills. Water, $83 per month. Electricity, $210 per month. Internet, $89 per month. Streaming, mobile plans. Random Amazon orders. I stopped counting. I checked my bank app last month and realized I'd spent $9,800 in the last 12 months alone. And yet, to them, I was still the bitter, selfish brother who never smiled. And family photos. The worst part, I wasn't even surprised anymore. A few weeks ago, I overheard a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. I came by the house unannounced to drop off some groceries and heard laughter from the kitchen. He's so uptight, Olivia said. You think paying a few bills made him king of the world? Mom added. He's probably just lonely, Dad chimed in. He works too much. All that money and no one to spend it on. At least he's good for something, Olivia said. I'd cry if I had to pay my own internet. They all laughed. I stood frozen on the porch, grocery bags in hand. No one saw me. I turned and left without saying a word. Later that night, I canceled the autopay on their Netflix and Disney Plus. Olivia texted the next day, Did the Wi-Fi glitch, or did you forget to pay again? I didn't reply. But the real breaking point came 2 months ago. I logged into my bank account to transfer money and noticed something strange. Multiple Apple Pay purchases. I didn't recognize a new MacBook, a wellness retreat, subscriptions, designer clothes, all billed to the card I'd once given my mom just in case of emergencies. I called her immediately. Did you buy a MacBook? Oh, that was for Olivia. She needed one for work and a retreat. She was going through a rough patch. Honestly, she was crying every night with my money. She got quiet. You make more than all of us combined, she said softly. It's not like you can't afford it. I hung up without a word for days. I debated whether to confront them, but then I remembered something Olivia had said during last Thanksgiving. We all play our roles. Mine is being fabulous. Yours is paying for the turkey. She laughed. Everyone laughed. I forced a smile and swallowed my pride. But now I couldn't even look at a turkey without wanting to scream. Easter was supposed to be the one time of year where we all pretended to care about each other. I bought gifts for the kids, booked time off work, even made reservations for Sunday brunch a week before I got a text from Mom. "Hey, sweetie, could you make sure the utility payments are squared away before the weekend? Olivia's hosting an egg hunt at the house." I didn't respond, but I paid $385 for their comfort. $0 in gratitude. And then Easter came. I showed up with wine and chocolate, and they shut the door in my face. "This Easter, you're not welcome," my mom said. Olivia made sure I heard it. "Honestly, it just feels better without the moodiness," she called from inside. "Let's keep it light this year." They wanted light. I gave them darkness. As in no electricity, no water, no internet. I sat in my car and watched the house slowly dim. The porch light flickered off the lawn. Sprinklers stopped. Olivia burst through the front door. 5 minutes later, waving her phone like a sword. "What did you do?" she screamed. I rolled down the window. "Enjoy Easter," I said, "the way you wanted without me." And I drove off, finally understanding that sometimes the only way to heal is to cut the cord. I didn't even get it home before the call started. First Mom and Dad, then Olivia again. Again. My phone buzzed so violently it almost dropped off the seat. I ignored all of them until one message came in from Dad that made me laugh out loud. "You're being theatrical. Come back and correct this. Fix this? You mean your water? Your internet? Your concept of a functional family? No thanks." They came up at my residence 2 hours later. Despite hearing the knock, I remained still. Give them time to stew. For once, let them experience anything. Then there was a yell. "Are you really going to spend Easter ignoring your own mother? We'll contact the cops if you don't open the door now." Olivia let out a scream. "This is mistreatment!" She raised her voice. Olivia lifted her fist to bang again as I opened the door. She staggered along, almost tripping inside. "Enter." Flatly, I replied. "However, I'm going to call the police personally if any of you raise your voices." They arrived in droves. Mom is weeping. "Dad is pacing!" Olivia yelling. "Do you find this amusing? We had kids over. Have you ever had to explain the toilet's lack of flush to a 5-year-old? "Yes," I sat down and said. "You tell them that their uncle and aunt expect me to take care of everything." Boom! "Keep quiet!" Mom let out a gasp. Olivia's gaze widened. Dad's hands clenched. "You have no right to talk like way to your family." My mother lost her temper. "Family?" I arched an eyebrow. The same family who warned me not to go since I destroyed the atmosphere. The same person who made fun of me behind my back for my usefulness. The same one, like a refilling tap, that took my money. "Dad! Come on forward. You're going overboard." "No." I stated that I had finished reacting. "I'm pretending." Olivia crossed her arms at last. "Do you believe that this gives you power? Disabling the utilities to make a point?" "No," I said. "I'm free because of this," she gave a snort. "You're acting absurdly, to be honest. This martyr complex has always been a part of you. For paying certain payments, do you desire praise? Do you mean my $9,800 from the previous year? I stole the cash that covered your new iPhone, your heating, your Zoom treatment, and your fictitious business trip to Paris that turned out to be a Palm Springs spa week." Her face turned pale. "You looked through my belongings. You purchased the aircraft ticket using my credit card." Genius. The first understand the statements that attempted to shift the topic. "Well, let's face it, we've made some errors." "A few," I interrupted him. "You told me straight out, Dad, that I wasn't welcome at the table." Because Olivia has a future, she deserves the assistance more," he responded softly. "You looked me in the eye and said that I was angry." "You were honest," I remarked. Mom reached out for once. "Please, sweetheart, we are related. Can we simply restart? Reverse what you did? You didn't simply ignore me this Easter, so I answered icily, 'No.' Years ago, you cut me off. Taking what you need has been all right with you. However, I say no the second time. The villain is me." Olivia was trembling now. She was now quietly angry instead of red-faced. "This is something you'll regret." Through her teeth, she said, "You think you'll feel better if you cut us off? You'll be by yourself." "Excellent," I said. "Being alone is preferable to being drained by individuals who greet me with smiles. And when I go, spit on my name. Quiet. The room was filled with static and a thick electric quiet. Then I got to my feet. This is what will take place. Calmly, I said. You'll pay the utilities in another way. Within 30 days, you will remove the car lease from my name. You will no longer use my Amazon Prime, Spotify, or Netflix. I'll permanently lock everything down if you don't. You wouldn't. Dad got things started. Try me, I said. If you ever try to guilt trip me again, Mom, please let me know. You are our son. Just keep in mind that sons should be loved, not treated like bills. Mom broke down in tears. Dad, look down! Olivia. She slammed the door so forcefully that a picture frame slanted sideways as she bounded out. I also didn't give a damn. I didn't explain or follow, did not resolve any issues. In my life, for the first time, I made no effort to improve it. I let out a breath, locked the door behind them, and shut it. I had finally prevailed in the war. The silence that followed was unbelievable. No texts, no calls, no unexpected raps on the door. It seemed as though they all agreed that I didn't exist. And what do you know? It was a wonderful feeling. I didn't wake up with that drab pressure in my chest for the first time in years. The whisperer. What are they going to require from you today? I will no longer be checking my bank account to see whether I have enough money to handle their most recent emergency. There will be no more phony group conversations where people exchanged memes and left my messages visible. There won't be any more guilt-ridden holidays when I purchased presents for everyone and received socks in exchange. I had freedom and the quiet. The quiet was beautiful. I started sleeping better, eating better, living better. I bought a cheap second-hand guitar and started teaching myself chords. I reconnected with college friends I hadn't seen in years. I signed up for a photography class just because I'd always wanted to, but never had time or energy or space to exist for once. Every cent I earned went toward me, my rent, my groceries, my future. It felt selfish. Then it felt fair. Then it felt right. About a week later, Olivia wrote a big Instagram story rage. Black background, white words, typical passive-aggressive drama dump. Some people may abandon you when you need the most, but God watches everything, and karma is true. I didn't reply, but I did screenshot it for the laughs. A few days after that, Dad phoned. I looked at the screen ringing 5 times, then voicemail. Hey, your mom's unhappy. Olivia's talking about selling her automobile. It's gone too far, and I'm not sure why you're doing this. We are related. Give us a call. I did not make a call. I sent Olivia an email instead. The deadline for Carly's transfer forms is 14 days. Subject line, you're welcome. The true surprise then arrived. Suddenly, my cousin's wife, Kelly, reached out. Everything blew apart when she was at the Easter celebration. As Olivia swore and my mother gripped her pearls as if I had killed someone, I stood silently in the background. Late one evening, she sent me a message. This may seem strange, but I simply wanted to express my gratitude. No one in my family has ever advocated for themselves so strongly, in my experience. To be honest, I learned a lot about their treatment of individuals. That wasn't fair to you. I hope all is well with you. For a long time, I simply gazed at the message. It was noticed by someone. At last, someone noticed me. I responded in writing. I'm more than all right, in a long time for the first time. Naturally, though, my family's calm does not continue long. I discovered a message pinned to my flat door when I returned home 2 weeks later. No address for return. My mother's handwritten message was inside. The opening line, "This is not how we brought you up." The final one, "Our son will always be you, even if the meaning of it has slipped your mind." I split it in two, went out for tacos after throwing it in the garbage. Because this is the problem. They will never comprehend. I never forgot the importance of family. They were unaware. To them, love meant power, that having money meant being obedient. Silence indicated agreement. Your selfless sacrifice demonstrated your dedication. But I knew better at last. It's silent when I enter my own flat now. I wish to keep quiet, not because I'm undesired. I light a candle. Play some tunes. Breathe when sitting by the window. There are no people waiting for me to fail. Nobody is requesting a wire transfer. And for once, I don't feel like someone else's fallback option. In mine, I feel like the protagonist. Know what's crazy? The world continued to exist. The day I declared to my family that I was finished, the sky remained intact. No lightning, no thunder. Bolt of remorse. Just freedom and quiet. For someone like me too. Someone who has played the part of a good son his entire darn life. But it was all about the stillness. It wasn't deserted. It was quiet. It wasn't solitary. There was silence. The type of silence that allows your own voice to resurface. Because I was unable to hear for years. As soon as I woke up, I would begin figuring out who I needed to save that day. Mom required $300 for a short-term petrol expense. Olivia had a concert she couldn't miss, but her account was frozen. If I didn't step in, Dad's late credit card payment would ruin his credit score. I got a bit smaller each time I answered yes. They didn't inquire. They anticipated. They weren't phony. They made jokes. They failed to notice me. They took advantage of me. And since I believed that was how love should feel, I allowed them. Suffocating. I mistakenly believed that necessity and want were synonymous. However, it isn't. Being loved is different from being used. That only became clear after a door was slammed and a power line was disconnected. The messages ceased after Easter. No more dangers. Please, no more. No more bow-topped guilt bombs. It seems as though they were too courteous to mention my death. But that ghost face gave me the best perspective I've ever had on my own life. I began asking myself questions that no one had previously permitted. What am I hoping to accomplish? Do I exist outside of them? What if I no longer serve as their lifeline? Do you know what I discovered? Inhale, space, joy. I became proficient in cooking for myself. Not cereal and embarrassment, but actual meals. On Saturdays, I joined a nearby music gym. I began penning short stories, poetry. Heck, it turns out that the guilt even extends to an entire individual. Then, weeks after the incident, I happened to run into someone at a bookshop one evening. Rachel was a girl I knew in college. She had changed appearance, more content, felt lighter. After grabbing coffee and striking up a conversation, she eventually inquired, "Are you still close with your family?" After a moment of hesitation, I responded, "It said it for the first time without flinching. No." I interrupted them. She blinked. Then she grinned. "Excellent," I chuckled. I didn't anticipate that. Most folks just look at me as if I've admitted to killing someone. She gave a shrug. Being the family doormat is something that most people have never experienced. We spent hours discussing boundaries, mending, and ultimately making your own decisions without feeling guilty about them. Walking home that evening, I came to the realization that I was no longer broken. Without them, I was starting again, and I was fine with that. Months passed. Little things that held great significance began to catch my attention. My phone ringing no longer made me jump. I stopped looking fearfully at my bank account. I stopped following Olivia on social media in anticipation of the next insult, and I genuinely started giggling at a meme that someone emailed me one day. Like a wave, it struck me. Holy! Well, I'm content. It was because nothing was exhausting me anymore, not because something spectacular had occurred, because I wasn't someone else's crutch for the first time in ages. I was myself. Alive. Get up, untangled. The last twist follows. Mom left me a voicemail. She spoke in a delicate, weak, almost frail voice. "Hello, my love. I really hope all is okay with you. Olivia is going through a difficult period. Without you, the home has changed. I am aware of your anger. Even if we made a mistake, you are still our son. You are loved by us. You are missed." I gave the message 2 listens, and I didn't weep for the first time. Nothing drew me back in. I didn't feel angry or guilty. I simply felt finished, as well as the sensation. It wasn't chilly. The temperature was warm. Warm. After years of shade, it seems like standing in the sun. What I now know is as follows. You are not harsh if you say no. It's not a sign of heartlessness to set boundaries and avoiding harmful individuals. Their blood is survival, even if it isn't treachery. Indeed, it's possible that they now use my name as a pejorative at their dinner table. They could fabricate the narrative, make me the bad guy, the heartless, the ungrateful one. Permit them. I no longer have them in my life, and at last, my life is mine. If you're sick of always giving, then this is for you. never fails to forgive, always makes a sacrifice. Behind your back as they chuckle, I'll be the evidence. Feel free to pause. You are free to go on. You have the freedom to select yourself. Additionally, they may tell you that you are not welcome. Good, you say. I came here not to be welcomed. I arrived to halt the bleeding. Then you take a proud stance. Never turn around once you've left, because they don't offer you serenity. When you say enough, that's where you regain control.